I could do this POV like the movie, but that would be really hard to watch. Yeah. Excellent. Hello, Silly Kelly coming at you once again. I come by on occasion. Now we got a movie review called Hardcore Henry. It's a Russian film from 2015, which has just been released here in the United States. A Russian and American film. There's British actors in it and Russian actors, and it looks like a first-person shooter video game. Whole movie. It's shot with GoPros cameras, and it's a bit like watching a typical like video game or random, like if Calicat Show had a budget, could do an action movie. Yeah, it's very unique and different. Some of these techniques were used in stuff like Captain Phillips during the Pirate Raid, and Spider-Man, the reboot. Amazing Spider-Man used the same POV stuff. They didn't so much in the second one. Doing an entire movie point of view, like has been done with found footage video on movies before, but not in the way they've done it here. Apparently, since this story just came out and it's mixed reviews. It's interesting. It has it's very violent. It's definitely rated R. It has some good special effects relating to various implements that are used to kill the bad guys. At one point, a tray goes into someone's head, like foam. And at one point, somebody's head gets severed. And there's also one part where this guy takes a shotgun and he blasts this other guy, and the top of him just disappears. Like cloud of gore. It's quite violent. It's like watching those Fallout video games. It's like what Grand Theft Auto should be, basically. Yeah, pretty much. Basically, with people flying around like parts flying off. If they're going to show the death scenes. A lot of so if they want to make it gory, it should be gory. They shoot somebody with a gun, their head comes off because a shotgun is going to blow your head off. But yeah, it's very very slick and twisted and violent. The story centers on and it's all video gamey. It's not like it's advocating violence. It clearly is cartoonish. In that sense, it's not trying to be anything like serious. It's a sci-fi action thriller. So the story opens with this guy waking up, and he's been partly bionic from being like partly robotic or something. And this woman identifies herself as the guy's wife and says his name is Henry, but that is his memories have been erased. And memories will come back, but the bad guys are coming to get them. And they have to escape from the lab that they're in. And to only discover that it's an airship. And they have to plummet to the ground early on to escape. There's a lot and then they're down on the ground, and it turns out they're in Russia. They spend much of the story in Russia, possibly Moscow or St. Peter. I think it's supposed to be Moscow, and it's just really trippy. There's a lot of archetypes of characters in it. There's a hippie clone. There's a cocaine clone. There's a lot of clones in it, and a lot of robots in it. There's a clone of a bum. There's a clone of there's all these things going on that are just nuts everywhere. It is hard to watch in that it's all POV and point of view, but is it really 55% like Rotten Tomatoes said? It's probably a little better. I would say 70. I would say it's probably 3.5 stars, just because it's unique and different. They probably couldn't place it somewhere, but I like action figures. so I also placed it in a similar venue. Yeah, so it's an action picture. So take that. Henry learns that he has powers that he can use to fight bad guys. He's like a super soldier or android or something. And the bad guy has silvery white hair, and he wants to catch him with his A-team looking vans, and in Aiken. Apparently, they don't like Clay Aiken very much, so they make fun of him in the movie. I don't think that's intentional, though. I think they just chose that name. Clay Aiken. But yeah, but yeah, for some reason, the Aiken, the bad guy, he has kinetic powers. No one explains that. He's got the ability to throw shit with his mind, or to push things with his hands, that without touching them. Telekinetic and hyperkinetic powers. They never explain that in the movie, that he would have that. And it's not a dream that they didn't go there. That would have been stupid. They didn't do that. Thankfully, they didn't go with the memories thing and like chintz out like an American one would do and go like, oh, it was really all a dream in his head and now he gets rebooted. No, they didn't do that. Not at all. It was very gritty and very Russian. Lots of actual Russians in it, with Ev and Av in their last name. And there's a strip club whorehouse scene that does not pull any punches and shows everything going on. And it's like, oh my goodness, oh wow, there aren't any kids in the theater because this is pretty raunchy. But yeah, and then it gets bloody and gory. It's basically a live action version of all of those guys online that go into the Grand Theft Auto and they play the nightclub scene. That one scene is like that. And the car chase scenes are very similar to that as well. Whoever did this played a lot of Grand Theft Auto and a lot of other person shooter video games. They probably weren't playing Fallout 4 because that hadn't come out yet when the movie was being produced. But maybe Fallout 3. Maybe Resident Evil. Some of those other video games. It's not directly related to those. It's related to a online GoPro short film series, apparently, that the producers made, which has sort of the same idea. They basically didn't have much budget at first. They got a movie, so they could budget. But yeah, so it's it's called Hardcore Henry. I think that refers to not necessarily hardcore as in what that word meant in the 80s, when it was like hardcore, like porn. No, it means hardcore as in he's extreme. It's the more 90s version of that word. It means that he is extreme Henry. But extreme doesn't sound as cool. Hardcore Henry sounds better. It's more video gamey. Very similar to, like, it reminded me of Duke Nukem as well. And some of those, Call of Duty, definitely. But more so a street urban warfare snarky version, like they're all running around snarky. It wasn't so much Halo and the Master Chief, although a little bit. The audience is put into the mind of Henry as they're going along. The bad guy, he wants to create the super soldiers to destroy everything, society, I guess. That's his motivation. There's another rival faction that is building, that's a guy, a wheelchair-bound guy, and he is actually making automatons to get a hold of the robots that the other guy's making so that he can stop the bad guy. I'm not sure if that motivation is altogether clear, although it pretty much seems so. I don't know why why the other guy has kinetic powers, except to kind of riff Akira and Chronicle. I don't know. I don't know whether they explained that in Akira. He was like a meta-human kind of mutant kind of thing, and in the other one in Chronicle they touched the alien orb thing, glowy thing that gave him powers. So there's at least some explanation. There's no MacGuffin in this one, and how they had all that technology. You would think like they're the spoilers, of course. You'd think that like the shtick they use is their memories and all that. You would think that if he's going to create super soldiers, he wouldn't give them humanoid memories. He'd just make them lethal, like Terminators. Just like oh, I don't need to give them memories. Just let them kill everybody. But no, that would. I guess they had to give it human personality of some kind, otherwise there'd be no empathy. But leave it to the Russians to make it all dark and twisted. They probably saw Die Hard 5 and said, "Oh my God, it's terrible. We can do that better." Yes, much better. Make it more like McClane, like original Die Hard. Yes. So yeah. But yeah. And it's like he has the ability to like beat the crap out of the other robots and dismember them even and rip them apart and stuff. And it's like, okay, but if he can do that, how come they can't do that to him? How come they have trouble doing that to him? You think one of them would just go, "I have a machete," and just cut off arms and limbs and stuff. Or, "I have a sword." I guess they're just toying with him. They're like, "Yeah, I toy with him." Hardcore Henry is sort of an android, I guess. There's a particularly gross scene in which one of them tells them, like, "You got to go to this one bad guy and rip open his heart and eat it, and then get the power chip out of him." And he's like, "Ah," and he's like, "No, I'm just kidding. You don't need to eat it, but you do need to get the power chip out of the problem behind his heart." Oops, it's just really gross. But yeah, there are a couple of really twisted ideas in there. And this movie doesn't pull any punches. When the guy finds one of the bad guy to find his heart, he reaches in there into his chest, gore everywhere, pulls out the heart, gets the chip, and then they do it again. The other bad guy. It's like, oh, ew. So yeah, it's really gross. But yeah, it's really gory, and yeah, so go check that out. Henry movie. Yeah, so so yeah, that's my review of. What more can I say, really, without completely giving the entire thing away? I kind of gave you the plot, kind of gave you that there's robots and androids involved. Well, he's clearly an android from the trailer. Some kind of android. So yeah, the trailer gives it away. So. And there's bad guy androids that he fights and people. I don't know if the whole city are androids or if he's just an android. It's kind of hard to tell whether the other guards are other androids or not. They sort of make that ambiguous. I guess there are other people that were working for Aiken and the other guy. Yeah, but yeah, hardcore Henry with his guns going. Yes, if you've played any violent video games, you'd probably dig this movie. Yeah, and of course they are video games and they're fantasy, so of course your disclaimer is not to enact anything that happens in this film or review, because it's all a movie, it's all make believe. That no androids were killed making this film. Yeah. But yeah, well, lots of CG ones. Yeah, the movie they have a budget. So. It's very bleak in parts, but funny. So yeah, Silly Kelly, and that was a Henry movie. Hardcore Henry. Yeah.